and then make more room for houses and all this.
Good morning.
So I'll send you the
Great weather, great day. This job has been a long time in the planning. I came to Southeast Missouri about 8.5 years ago, and at that time, doing some work on this section of 34 was in the top 3 of the priority list of MoDOT to get done in our district. And we've had to work hard to get the right funding together to pull this project together. And I'm disappointed it took us so long, but I'm proud we got it done. I'm really glad we got it done, and it took a lot of help. We needed some help from our United States senators and our United States Congresswoman at the time, Joanne Emerson, to help pull together some funds to kick some more in the pot to get this job done. The Delta Regional Authority, we were able to fill out some applications and to get some funding through the Delta Regional Authority to kind of put some more in. We knew that the school had some concerns, big concerns about the elevation of the roadway and the flooding in the area, and we were able to, I think, with some contribution from the school, let them accomplish their goal at a cheaper rate than what it would have if it wasn't incorporated in the highway project, and just worked well. It's truly one of those win-win situations. So here we are, December 17th, $8.3 million later, 7 months ahead of schedule, and we've got a 6-mile section of Highway 34 that is much safer and much better than it was 2 or 3 years ago. And I just want to thank everybody for their hard work in getting this project completed. I was talking to Steve with Bubanovich with Quadri a few minutes ago, and it took us a little while to kind of get out of the gate. But once we were out of the gate, Quadri and Pace worked together and got this job done 6 months ahead of schedule, and I certainly appreciate and commend your efforts on that. We can't stop on Highway 34. We've got a couple more projects in the program. In January, we're actually going to let a project from Marble Hill into Highway 72 in Jackson, and we'll open bids on that and be able to put some shoulders on that section of road and make it better. So we're making good progress, and I'm really glad about that. I just don't know how long it's going to last. I just don't know how long that we'll be able to continue making progress. You know, we spent the last 6 or 7 months, and we've been working on updating our long-range transportation plan. And through that process, we spent a lot of time, and we talked. We had meetings across the state, and then we literally hit the road. We put on shirts that would identify us as MoDOT employees, and we went to farmers markets. We went to horse shows. We went to car shows. We went around and talked to folks and wanted to find out what's important to them. And what we found out is transportation's important. And the things and we found out that if you want to talk about specific projects, you better have a ream of paper if you're going to write them all down, because everybody has a project, something that needs to be improved, needs to be worked on, and you know what? I wouldn't disagree with any of them. Wouldn't disagree with any of them at all. But when you start categorizing those things, what you find is, MoDOT, you need to take care of the system. You need to keep in good shape what you've got. You need to make the system safer. If you're going to do jobs, they need to do things like add shoulders, eliminate one-lane bridges, put rumble stripes in, and make the system safer for all of our drivers. You need to do jobs that are going to have a positive effect on economic development. You need to make sure that if the road's safer, it's better for moving goods and services across. And you know what? I think this section is 34, and when we link it up to Jackson, it's going to provide a better link into central Bollinger County, and I'm really happy about that. And then you also need to make sure that your projects link the systems together. Here we sit in Missouri, the center of the nation, and we've got a couple rivers that run through us. We've got a good rail system, and we've got a good road system, but they have all got to be linked together so that you can efficiently move goods. And it's also important for pedestrian traffic. If you're going to walk somewhere to catch the bus, you need to be on a sidewalk that leads you to a bus stop that drops you off at a safe place to get to your doctor's office, your shopping. And those are the things that we heard from Missourians, and those are the things that we'll continue to work on as we work and prioritize projects. We're going to do everything we can, as long as we can, to deliver the projects that Missourians want. Now would be the time, typically, I'd probably roll into our funding woes. I'm not going to do that. You know what? You all understand that. We all have budgets. We all understand that things are tough, and we all understand that sometime we'll have to do something about transportation funding. Now's not the time to talk about that. Now's the time to talk about the good progress that we've been making in Bollinger County with this project, with the one we've got in January, and also the shoulders that we've added and overlays we put on Highway 51 completed this summer as well. So thank you for all y'all being here. We've got a few other folks that would like to say a few comments, and first I'd like to introduce Ms. Christy Nitch on behalf of the Honorable United States Representative Jason Smith.
Good morning. What a great day for Bollinger County. Mark, I go back a little bit further than 8.5 years ago. My mom taught at Woodland back in the early 80s, and Highway 34 was a topic then. And so it's been a long time coming, but it's a wonderful day. It's a Christmas present for the people that work at this school district and for the people of Bollinger County. Everyone here, I think, has lived the devastation and the tragic loss of life that has occurred along the stretch of highway. And this is a memorial to them, a tribute to them that we finally have this fixed. I have to say, since Mark Shelton came to MoDOT, and we started working with the Delta Regional Authority and the planning commissions, and Bollinger County really became involved in that, we've really received a lot of projects. My old boss, Joanne Emerson, this was probably one of the last projects that she got money for. And it was after a meeting with Jennings Wilkinson that we really got to work on that, and I remember that day well. But since Mark Shelton has been here, I can tell you that MoDOT has done a wonderful job in projects. They seem to be able to squeeze as much out of a dollar as they can. They always come in under budget, and they always finish ahead of schedule. That's something that we have not seen in the past. And so I think you all should be commended for that, Mark, and your guys that work for MoDOT. Again, I would just say thank you to everybody that's been involved in this project. It's a great day. It's a beautiful road. I drove out it this morning before I came here. My husband had been on it last week and said it was great. And so congratulations to everybody, and I hope that we can see more work on this road, because I have pushed this I've been around 17 years, so I've pushed it for a long time, but I'm glad to see it finally come to pass. Thank you guys, and thanks, Mark.
Christy, thank you, and thank you for those kind comments. I certainly don't deserve any of the credit. It's guys like Brian Holt and Eric Kropp and our contractors, Quadri with Steve Bravanovich. Those are the guys that figure out how to get it done and get it done in a hurry and give us great bids, Steve, and we appreciate that. So our next speaker, we are so fortunate in Southeast Missouri to be well represented by just top quality people in our Missouri Senate, and I've not had a lot of dealings with Senator Wallingford. He's relatively new to being a state senator, but I can tell you, you get, when you meet folks and you have some interaction with them, you know, you always make a first impression, and Senator Wallingford makes an outstanding first impression. He leaves with you the sense that he's truly concerned about representing his constituents and doing the right thing for Missourians. And as my state senator, I certainly appreciate that. Senator Wallingford.
Well, thank you for those kind words, Mark. I really appreciate that. But I have to tell you, I was a little concerned when you mentioned that we were going to have a ribbon cutting ceremony in the middle of December, and you wanted me to speak, and I'd have about an hour for comments. And I'm concerned that it'd be so cold, people really wouldn't pay attention. But with this weather, I think I can go ahead with those comments that I had prepared. So, well, good morning. I'm glad to be here, proud to be here celebrating the completion of the new Route 34 here in Bollinger County. The project will greatly improve the infrastructure. It will also greatly increase the safety of our residents, which is very important because, as you all know, Highway 34 is well traveled and a very important road. Now, how many out there like history? Anybody? Be careful, you're standing next to a school and there's an educator out here too. Well, I like history, and I thought I want to dig up a little bit of history. So if you can bear with me, I think you might find a couple interesting facts, because everything has a history, including the highway that we gather on to officially reopen today. And it's hard to imagine that a little more than 100 years ago, many of the roads we drive on really didn't exist. It was a different time. It was when locomotive was the technology that connected us, and automobiles were more of a fad at that time and seen more of a sport for the wealthy citizens than a universal means of travel. And back then, road construction was pretty much left to the counties, and states were slow to create highway departments and appropriate the necessary funds. This wasn't seen as a priority, and particularly in the rural areas, it wasn't seen as a priority. Well, Missouri, however, is different. We're a state at the intersection of travel and trade routes. We have the Mississippi River, the Missouri River, we have overland trails branching out to the Wild West, and so we were quick to catch on to the changing times. So state support for road construction began in 1903 with the passage of a law that used a $2 annual license fee for the operation of motor vehicles, and a year later that they placed a tax on the private railroad cars. Now, the bulk of our state road fund back then came from a payment by the federal government to Missouri over a Civil War claim, which totaled about $500,000 being awarded to Missouri. But in 1911, Governor Hadley called for a committee to study the feasibility of building a cross-state highway between St. Louis and Kansas City. And while it would be years later before that project was completed, the committee's work was crucial in establishing the fact that the automobile was indeed here to stay, the future was cars, and we were going to need to build roads, and a lot of them, to keep up. So it took two laws to firmly start the construction of the state's highway system. The first was the Federal Aid Road Act of 1916, which gave federal assistance to states to build their own highway system. And the second was the Missouri Hawes Act of 1917, which created a state highway road board and a permanent state road fund. Now, the only problem was that the federal law never stipulated that the roads built by the states connect to one another. And the result was miles of roads built that didn't really go anywhere, much less from state to state. This was fixed, though, with the Federal Highway Act of 1921. Now, two things dovetailed with the 1921 federal law to create Missouri's modern road system. In 1920, Missouri issued a sale of $60 million in state bonds for road construction. And the next year, they passed the Centennial Law after a successful Get Missouri Out of the Mud campaign, which solidly shifted responsibility of the roads to the state and created a highway commission. Route 34 was one of the original highways built in 1922 at the beginning of the new modern era of travel. And now, almost a century later, we gather today to celebrate the important repairs that were critical to this highway in our region. Adding shoulders to this heavily used road will greatly increase motorist safety, and that should be our top priority. The work by MoDOT also includes curve correction, which also make it much safer for drivers. I would like to extend my deepest thanks to the employees of MoDOT, you who are gathered here today, who worked hard to see that these fixes were made. The safety of motorists in our area should always be our highest priority. The project serves as yet another example of how our transportation department is constantly looking for ways to make us all safer. This is an accomplishment that will benefit our community in many ways, and I hope you all join me in celebrating the safer, better roadway and thanking MoDOT for making that happen. Thank you.
Well, Senator, thank you for those comments, and we've come a long way since getting Missouri out of the mud, but we've still got some ways to go as we move forward. I've really learned over the last 8 years as I've been in southeast Missouri as the district engineer and trying to work on projects and pull things together, that the way you really get things done and the way you really serve the taxpayers best is when you develop partnerships. And those partnerships come together and you get enough folks pulling in the same direction, you end up with success. And we believe in MoDOT that you look for partners everywhere. It doesn't matter what, if schools seem different from roads, let's sit down and see if we have common interests and can make some progress in meeting both of our needs. And we certainly have found that with the Woodland School Superintendent, Jennings Wilkinson.
Thank you, Mr. Shelton. We've talked a little bit about the history. I want to add a little bit to the history of how the school got involved with this. We've had 3 floods in our district, 1982, 2002, and 2008. And as Christy mentioned, 2 of those floods, we actually had motorists drive off in high waters and lost their lives. So we knew we had a problem, loss of life. We also had 3 floods in our building here, and over those 3 floods, our Woodland School District has lost approximately $2 million in losses. So it was devastating from a financial standpoint to our district. So we thought it's time to try to do something. So we were exploring options. We actually were talking about building a berm around the building to keep water out of it. And we were actually in the planning process with that when someone came in the office one day and said, there's some guys out there on the highway looking around. And so we investigated, and it was MoDOT, had some engineers out, and we started questioning them, and they said, yeah, we're going to do a road improvement project through here. Coincidentally, same time we were hoping to mitigate waters out of the building. So I said, well, who could we talk to from MoDOT? So I get a phone number, and I end up with Eric Kraft on the other end of the phone. And I said, Eric, could we get together and talk about your project? Because we got one going on, and let's just brainstorm. He said, sure. So he came and we had a meeting. That was in October 2009. And we sat down, and I said, you're doing a project, we're doing a project. What do you think? Is there a way that we could hook the 2 together? And he said, he looked at it, and he said, you know, he said, let me research it. A couple months went by. I get a call from Eric one day, and he said, can we get back together? I got some people I want to bring with me. So we got together in our office and spent some time talking, and came out of that meeting very excited because he said, it may be a long process, but we think there's something we can do here. So to make a long story short, here we are today. We were able to do a cost share agreement with MoDOT, and I do want to say we appreciate MoDOT a lot for allowing us to come into their project, because what we had projected to spend on trying to do something ourselves, as opposed to being able to team up with MoDOT, saved the taxpayers of our district several $100,000, and yet the end result, we got what we wanted. Plus, we now have a highway that when there is a high water event, we can still get emergency vehicle traffic to the west side of our county. You know, sheriff's department, fire departments, ambulances, things that our people needed. So our community, obviously the school, we think we benefited greatly from this joint venture, but because of MoDOT working with us, we're able to elevate our road to keep it above the floodwaters, and our entire community benefits from that. So we're very fortunate for that. I want to thank our school board for having the vision to want to do this, and a lot of people, I know I'll leave somebody out, but Steve from Quad Reconstruction, the day after they awarded the bid, he was in our office, and I was telling him this a while ago. He said, we're going to get started on this, and he said, I think that was maybe in September, and he said, by December, he said, I think I'll have your road raised. And I thought, that's pretty optimistic, Steve. Sure enough, they pulled it off. They were great to work with our buses, our people moving in and out of the district, keeping everybody safe. They would actually, to his credit, they'd shut their crew down for about 20 or 30 minutes, let us get our buses in, let us get our buses out. So they were very good to, you know, team to work with. So again, from the district's perspective, we want to say thank you to everybody involved. We think this is a good day, a great day for our district and for the community. I do need to mention that we do have coffee and donuts in the lobby for anybody that might want to partake when you leave. Okay, thank you.
Superintendent, thank you. We appreciate the opportunity to work with you and find that win-win. We truly do. I do want to make sure that I mention Representative Shelley Keeney was planning to be here, and actually was planning to be here up until she actually woke up this morning, and she just woke up and was under the weather and can't be here. And I know from working with Representative Keeney and her passion for the roads in Bollinger County, that if there was any way at all she could be here, she would certainly be here. So she sends her regrets. I know she's worked hard and has been a strong advocate for the roads and especially this project in Bollinger County. That concludes our formal presentation. What we need to do now is gather around, and we'll get the ribbon cut.